Have you ever felt pressure to fit in with a certain lifestyle trend even if it doesn't feel right for you? It's like there's an invisible force pushing us to align ourselves with the latest fads, whether they're related to what we eat, how we spend our time, or even the way we practice our faith. This pressure to conform can be overwhelming, often leading us down paths that don't resonate with who we truly are. We start feeling like actors in our own lives, performing roles that don't quite fit rather than living authentically. This disconnection from our true selves can leave us feeling uncomfortable, out of place, and even lost. But what if there was another way? What if we could find a path that aligns with our true selves and brings us genuine joy and fulfillment? In today's reflection, we'll explore a gospel passage that speaks to this very issue. In Matthew 9:14-15, we find an intriguing conversation about fasting. Here, John's disciples approach Jesus with a question. They wonder why, unlike other religious groups of the time, Jesus' followers do not fast. It's a fair question, right? After all, fasting was a common practice among devout Jews, and yet, Jesus' disciples seemed to be the exception. Let's dive into Jesus' response. He uses a metaphor, likening his presence to that of a bridegroom at a wedding feast. Now, if you've ever been to a wedding, you know it's a time of joy and celebration. It's not exactly the place for fasting or mourning, is it? So, Jesus says to them, "Can the friends of the bridegroom mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them?" The message here is clear. His disciples didn't need to fast because they were in the presence of the source of their joy, Jesus himself. But Jesus doesn't stop there. He adds, "But the days will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast." This points to a future time after his death and resurrection, when his physical presence would no longer be with them. Then, fasting would be appropriate as a way to express longing for his return. Now let's delve into the deeper meaning of this passage. Jesus' teaching here isn't just about physical fasting. It's a reminder that true devotion isn't about the outward practices we follow. It's not about fitting into a certain mold or ticking off a religious checklist. No, it's about having a heart that's genuinely connected to God. It's about the joy we find in his presence and the longing we feel in his absence. So what does this mean for us today? In our modern world, what are some fasting trends that people follow? We see it all around us. Some people take a break from social media, calling it a digital detox. Others might take on strict dietary restrictions in the name of health or fitness. These practices, in essence, mirror the concept of fasting, abstaining from certain things for a period of time. But here's the rub. When these practices are done merely to fit in with societal trends or expectations, they can become burdens rather than blessings. They may start to feel like chains that bind us rather than tools for growth and self-improvement. And this is where the wisdom of the gospel comes in. Jesus' message to the disciples of John about fasting wasn't about the act itself, but about the heart behind it. His metaphor of the wedding feast challenges us to find a personal, joyful connection with God instead of following empty rituals. Now it's time for some reflection. Let's delve into our hearts and minds. Do you ever feel a tug, a pull to fit into certain religious or social practices that don't quite resonate with your spirit? It's okay to admit it. We're all on this journey together, learning, growing, seeking. Now consider this. How can you connect with God in a way that feels authentic and joyful to you? It's not about following a rigid set of rules, but about nurturing a relationship that brings light and joy into your life. And what about fasting? In our modern world, it might not mean abstaining from food. Maybe it's a break from technology or from negative thoughts. What kind of fasting resonates with your soul today? I encourage you to start your own daily reflections on the gospel. Remember, true joy comes from a genuine connection with God.